All right, everybody, we are live this evening, Monday, March 13th, and our show, welcome to our show, Chit Chat Chew Show. I am one of the co-hosts, Aisha, but you guys know me better as Jade.
And you have your other co-host on the mic, and I'm Uno, the other co-host of Chit Chat Chew Show.
So tonight we have an awesome, fabulous, tantalizing, you just don't know what it's going to be about until you hear the conversation. So we have the awesome Stephanie Grande, aka
Captain Steph.
Yes, like I love that superhero, especially the picture. If you saw the flyer, I love it. I just felt like she was a Wonder Woman.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Jade. Thank you so much, Uno, for opening up this opportunity for me to come and share my story. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
No problem.
So for you guys that are tuning in, you can actually call in you can call into our number, which is 404-474-0080. Again, the number is 404-474-0080. You can ask those questions that you're probably curious about. You can give the shout out to Stephanie. You can give the shout out to Chit Chat Chew. You can even give the shout out to our other one plus guest, Mark.
Right. So if you want to do all that, you can call in, or if you're not comfortable calling in, that's okay too. You can drop a comment on my page or Jay's page or in our inbox on our Facebook page, Chit Chat Chew, and that's totally fine with us. We'll definitely give you a shout out.
And also,
and the guests as well.
Absolutely.
Give us a shout out.
And you can download the app Audio, AWDIO, or you can go to www.audio.com. And for our LGBTQ and allied community, you can stream us live at www.gaytvatl.com. So there's various ways, no excuses.
Right. And if you do download the app on your phone, you can also stream us live actually on the computer or laptop as well. So yes, there's definitely no excuse. You have multiple options.
And one more little side thing, as you guys know, if you've been one of our faithful listeners, we are a no filter show. That means we can we give it raw. We have that advantage to speak any way that we want to.
Right.
So,
and we let our guests
express themselves as well.
Because this is a comfortable setting, so we want you to be you and do you. That's
absolutely, for real, because we definitely will.
Yes.
I know so many people are surprised at my mouth.
They'll be all right.
They be all right, though. Yes. And I want to before we start asking Stephanie, I want to thank all you guys for giving those happy birthday shout outs. I really, really appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. So we're going to start. Stephanie, tell the listeners about yourself.
Well, before I agreed to come on and do the show, I listened to a few of your prior broadcasts, and I was like, oh, thank goodness, they're going to be okay with my mouth.
Yes.
So, my mom named me Steph. Stephanie. And then she would throw in occasionally my daughter with the truck driver mouth. And then there came a point in time where I was like, hey, I think I'd like my own name, like one that I gave to myself. And Star Captain Steph came. And it was through this journey of self-exploration, self-acceptance, and like truly a place of radical self-love that I was like, right on. I'm going to be Star Captain because I am the captain of this Earth suit. Like, I'm in control here.
You're
I'm
in
the
control.
one that do no harm and all that good stuff. But that I realized that I was responsible for making the life that I wanted to live. And I had have spent 20 years working in the upstream oil and gas industry.
Okay.
It's been a very lucrative career. It's been very, very nice. I work for and run an engineering and electrical engineering consulting services firm, and we were able to dig deep into some power systems. And those were typically the critical power systems. Like I'm talking about the power systems that provide our electricity, the power systems that run our wastewater treatment, the power systems that allow for us to live the life to the standard of living to which we've grown accustomed. I walk into my house, I flip on a switch, I expect there to be light. So what we've done is behind the scenes make sure that the power systems that supported those critical infrastructure, that they were as efficient as possible. But there was also somewhere deep down inside my core where I felt like, is what I'm doing right? Right? We're extracting natural resources from the ground. We're burning them at the surface, and they're having an impact. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm not a hippie, though. What am I asking myself these questions for? And I realized that I was being prepared to answer a greater call. And that greater call came to me one day when I was at work, and I received a call from one of my clients, who was a very, very large oil company, and they said, hey, Steph, we need your help. We need to run a contract. We're looking at alternative energies. And I thought, oh, well, this is interesting. And we're looking at alternative energies, and I was like, oh, cool, what are you doing, like ethanol? Are we going to grow corn? Like, how can I help? And they're like, no, we're looking at hemp. And I laughed. And I was like, what, you're going to grow hemp? I was like, what? Yeah, tell me more. And they're like, well, we really don't need you involved in the project. We just need for you to pass through this local vendor. You already have an agreement with us. It would just be really neat if we just did this. And I said, okay, I would love to help you out. But of course, my curious brain went, there's got to be more to this story. And why is it coming across my desk? And I started to dig deeper. And I was like, why is this oil company getting involved in cannabis? Like, it just didn't make sense to me. So I dug deeper. And I was like, wow, wait a minute. There might be something to this. Why would this company be investing in 1,000 acres in Colorado to grow a plant that they want to turn into fuel? So then my research brain kicked in. And I started looking at it. And I was like, oh my gosh, did you know everything that I found out about this particular crop, which is called industrial hemp? It intrigued me. And ladies, it takes a lot to intrigue me. I've seen a lot. I've been around. I'm not a spring chicken. And I was like, this plant can really do this? Like, I went to a liberal arts school in southwestern Colorado, so I might have minored in marijuana, but I assure you it wasn't the industrial type.
Right.
But, I was like, you grow up a little bit, you realize that having clarity throughout your day can be a really helpful thing to getting through your day. And it was funny to come back 20 years later, full circle, and be reintroduced to a plant that I thought that I knew.
Right.
And what I found out was that there was a difference here on this industrial hemp crop, that it was a crop that would produce less than 0.3% THC. So that's that psychoactive cannabinoid component that we typically will associate with getting us high. And I was like, they bred this plant to get rid of that effect? I was like, hang on.
Right.
Like,
why are you gonna do that?
Why'd you mess up the plant? And but to be fair, I was like, okay, there's more to this. And when I stumbled upon a bit of information that seemed so incredible that there was no way that I could believe it unless I dug deeper, what I found out was, what I was told, was that this particular plant
industrial hemp that as it grew, it had the ability to absorb carbon from the atmosphere at a rate 4 times greater than forest. And I was like, how? What? Tell me more. So I went and I looked deeper, and it was the facts were there to support it, and it's relative to how quickly it grows, and it's relative to how much carbon it absorbs while it's going through its growing process. So we would call that type of a plant a carbon sequesterer.
Okay.
Sawgrass works the same way, although in my opinion, sawgrass is a lot less interesting than hemp. So, but I do big fan of all those people out there that are planting sawgrass.
Right.
Thank you. We need to absorb as much carbon from the atmosphere as we can.
Right.
Because we've been burning a lot of extra of it that had been stuck safely down in the layers of the earth. We released it. We burned it.
Right.
Now what do we do?
Right, because we're not reciprocating or replenishing the earth. Like, okay, we're draining from the planet, but what are we giving back to the planet?
Right. We're running around and we're planting trees. Right? Tree City, USA. So I live in Peachtree City. It's Tree City, USA. You know how long it takes those plants, those trees to mature?
Wow. How long?
On average, if we're looking at like our Georgia white pine forest and the land that we keep in forest conservation, we're looking at a minimum of about 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
20 years. So when we're looking at a crop like industrial hemp, it takes about 4 months for it to reach full maturation.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And it's busy absorbing carbon the entire time. So I was like, okay, I wanted to know more about this carbon. Like, what else are we doing as a species to capture this free carbon that we've now, at our own hands, released into the atmosphere? What does that really mean? And then I found out about these large carbon capture and storage facilities. Like, literally, $1 billion industry, maybe more, that we as humans across the planet have invested in. And they're these plants that we co-locate next to typically large industrial installations like a coal plant or something like that. And it's a secondary or ancillary facility that's located very nearby to these big industrial things that captures the carbon out of the air, goes through a chemical process that turns it into some sort of a liquid, and then we drill another hole. Because, as if we're not already drilling enough holes, like we drill another hole, we capture that business, we artificially inject it back down. And I think the whole time we're like hoping for the best, right?
Right.
I think the whole time we're like,
take a chance.
And when I stepped back from that, I was like, my whole life has been lived in some sort of an industrial capacity. That when I stepped back from that, I was like, wow, that seems like a really neat opportunity, a really neat way for us to try to recreate a process that already exists naturally on the planet. Why don't we just let the plants do it?
That's true.
That's true.
I mean, the creator, he puts everything here for a reason.
He had a plan, man. And he had the balance was in there. Everything was in there.
It's all how us humans use it.
It's true.
That's the thing.
It's what I've noticed. An excellent point that I think that you bring up there, Uno. You know what? In God's plan, as far as I've been able to experience, there's room for everything.
Yeah.
Right.
There is room for everything, and we have that responsibility of doing no harm along the way.
Right.
But there's room for everything. There's room for you, Jade, to show up and express you in only the way that you can.
Right.
There's room. Uno's going to do the same thing. Star Captain's going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Mark, he's going to do the same thing too, and we're all going to be happier as a result of it. Right.
And you feel liberated when you do
it. It's like I just took off that backpack filled with, the proverbial guilt and set it down and said, well, wait a minute, maybe my maker had a plan for me and maybe I should just show up and be me.
Right.
Because all you can be is you. I mean.
That's true.
So I felt that so deeply for myself that I think that when I started hearing that call from a plant, and I am a little bit crazy. Maybe a little bit more than just a little bit. But it's undiagnosed and unmedicated. So guess what? We're on a roll and we're going to keep it going.
Right.
I felt that same call from this plant. I felt this plant calling to me to tell me I have a story and I need someone to tell it. And everything that I started hearing about how hemp was being used as, so we've covered the carbon sequestration angle. It has the ability to naturally and safely, massive ingestion of carbon.
Okay.
And then lock it into the soil. Puts it right back where it was supposed to be all along.
Right.
So I was like, great, that's cool. Like, even if it just did that, it would be an amazing plant. But then I found out about this function called phytoremediation. Now, remember when I said I'm not a spring chicken and my whole life has been spent around like large industrial applications? So my first job out of college, a really long time ago, was I was the contractor on-site technical representative for Commander Naval Air Force's U.S. Pacific Fleet. And I reported with my brand new college mug and showed up at a Navy base in San Diego, working at the N436 shop. Basically, we were in charge of all maintenance for all combat systems for 6 aircraft carriers. 4 out of those 6 aircraft carriers were nuclear powered.
Wow.
So I was like, right on. I'm showing up for duty.
Right.
I started calling all the I worked with a lot of limited duty officers, and I just want to say thank you to anybody who's ever served in the armed forces or served your country in any capacity. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Yes, I love it. It's
we thank you.
We thank you so much.
That's all to you, man.
Huge
all to y'all.
Huge fan. Huge fan. I was raised on an Air Force base in some capacity, at least during different parts of my life. And then my child's father is a retired naval commander as well. So, there's a lot of military. My brother has served. I've had a lot of my uncles. I've got a lot of people in my family that have served, as have many of the rest of us.
Right.
But I had never walked among them. Now, I had the ability to be among them, but do it in plain clothes.
Right.
And I was, for all intents and purposes, 12 years old. So they really weren't that impressed with me. Not as impressed as I thought they should have been. But spending as much time, right? I was like, don't these guys know I'm a big deal?
Meanwhile, they're not caring.
No.
She ain't a big deal.
They were like, sit down, shut up, and maybe, just maybe, we might be able to teach you something.
Right.
And the first thing they taught me was that you do not call a senior enlisted guy sir, because they'll look at you right now and say, don't call me sir, I work for a living. So I learned quite quickly, a lot of different things, and then we started solving some power problems, right? So we got in there, started looking at the power problems, and then through that, I was really, really drawn to, honestly, nuclear fallout. I was like, how can I be a part of a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier when I know that these things fail? They kill people. They contaminate landscapes. I mean, just look at the story of Chernobyl, right? We know that.
Right.
Anybody who hasn't heard the story of Chernobyl, it's not a pretty tale.
No.
It was a nuclear power plant. There were system overrides that were put into place, and as a result, there was a giant nuclear disaster.
Right. And that doesn't end well.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't end well. Do you know one of the very, very the most beneficial remediative aspects in a nuclear cleanup that I have found in my research? It's called phytoremediation. It's a plant that, when planted in the soil, actually improves the quality of the soil in which it's been planted. So one of those plants is a sunflower.
Wow.
So if you plant a sunflower, it will leave the soil in better condition than it found it.
Wow.
Oh,
And
wow.
sunflowers
Okay.
are, pardon, but sunflowers are badass, right?
Right.
I love
Basically
sunflowers.
like reconstructing the soil.
Totally,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Most of the things that we plant require some sort of amendment to the soil in order to make the soil more hospitable. It's almost like, what can the soil give to that plant? But hemp looks at it totally differently. Hemp gives something back to the soil. And that's like an increased nitrogen content. It's all back to do with, now I'm no botanist or plant scientist by any means. I can ask some educated questions, but what I would really ask is that if anybody out there hears something today that inspires them or that they want to know more about, I can tell you right now, I don't know all the answers. I am really good at encouraging everybody to go and do some research. If you like what I'm saying, go check it out for you. Because I promise, if there's something about it that you like, it's going to come and circle back for you in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
This is my favorite part about this plant that is industrial hemp, is that there's 25,000 plus uses for it. That means
That's
I
a lot.
don't care who
Yes.
you are. I don't care what you do. I don't care how you do it. And I say that with the most respect possible. Seriously, do you. Do it better than anybody else.
Absolutely.
There is something that you, whoever you are, can do with hemp. Something.
Right.
So when I found out that they were planting industrial hemp all around Chernobyl, I was like, why? Why? Why hemp? Well, it's because it was proven that it is a phytoremediative plant. So it improves the quality of the soil. And one of the ways that it does that is it'll pull heavy metals out of the soil. And provided that you cultivate the plant in a certain way, that it gets the proper care and feeding that it needs along that evolution of it as it grows and reaches harvest point. It's typically the flowers that will store some of the heavy metals, but most of what we're finding out is that if we cultivate the plant such that it does not reach the flowering stage, it will pull the heavy metals out of the soil, and there are little to no, if any, detectable amounts of whatever was in the soil left in the plant.
Wow.
So I'm like, what did it do with it? I have no idea. I haven't had a chance to ask yet, but if I do find out, I will let you know.
Yes,
Please
definitely.
do.
So when I found out this plant was phytoremediative, so it improved the soil, it was a massive carbon sequesterer, I was like, holy, this is two things that we really, really need on this planet, like right now. And I was like, I'm going to go plant some. And then, so I live in Georgia. I had been in Colorado, because I spend my summers there. That's where my office is. That's where my headquarters is. So I was like, yeah, that's it, man. I'm not going to let that oil company go and plant on their own. Nobody plants alone. I'm going to plant some hemp. Watch me now. I'm going to be a farmer. Never mind that I've worked on Navy ships and in oil fields and wastewater treatment facilities. There's nothing prettier than the Coachella Valley in June at a water treatment facility. It was like that. Actually, there's a lot of things that are prettier, look prettier, smell prettier, act prettier. But, but that was the world really that I came from, having grown up with, with industrial background and working in an industrialized field. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a farmer. It can't be that hard, right?
Right.
So I was wrong.
Yeah, saw your thought.
I love being proved wrong. I really do. So I was in Colorado. I was doing this work. And as I said, I wasn't involved in the biofuel project. I was merely there and made aware of its existence because I could masterfully facilitate a contract for them. And so any information that I got, I had to go out and research on my own. So I just devoured information. And at the end of the summer, I was like, okay, time to go back to Georgia. I'll just take what I've learned here in Colorado and apply it there. Right?
Right.
Except for I came back to Georgia only to find out that it is illegal to cultivate industrial hemp in Georgia. I was like,
Didn't know that.
I was like,
Okay. Wow.
what?
No,
What?
I mean, far as
Why?
Why?
What?
It's
Why?
natural. What?
Right.
What's the
Why?
big deal?
It didn't make any sense to me, and I said to myself, somebody should do something about this. And then I was like, oh man, this whole self-awareness journey really sucks. Like, I'm somebody, aren't I? I should probably do something about this. So that's where I am now.
Okay.
That's where I am now. I came back to Georgia, and I did a little bit of research to find out who is already showing up in this space. I knew that it was an important enough issue that there had to be someone lobbying for it already. And I thought, right, I don't want to start from
Like from scratch.
right?
Yeah,
It's like, which door would I knock on first? Where would I go? So I had pulled from prior experience and thought, well, whatever it is that you're wanting to do, there's got to be somebody out there that's at least reasonably like-minded. Find that person and collaborate with them.
Right.
So I started searching, and it was Facebook where the most information was popping up, and just a remarkable, talented, vibrant, vivacious, wonderful woman came in across my feed, and her name is Aviva.
Aviva.
And I was like, wow, I really like her message. Because you see, I had come to understand in the early bits of my research that there were several different aspects of cannabis. There was all these different terms that were being used. Cannabis, marijuana, hemp. I was like, what the heck is the difference?
Right.
Right.
Because I used to think that too, like, it's all the same to me.
Right.
It's all got to be the same, right?
Right.
But when you
What is the
research-
difference?
So what I've come to understand is the fact that we are not taught the difference, or we don't really have, that information's not just handed to us.
Right.
And I don't, I don't like to go to the place where I feel like someone's trying to keep me down, I feel like, hey, if I can find out about it now, then I'll go find out about it now.
Right.
And then, like, if somebody really is trying to oppress me, like, watch out, I'll fight back, right? But so I was like, okay, I need to learn this. I need to figure out, why is this plant keep showing up in my world? What am I supposed to do with it? And I was like, okay, well, given that early experience going to a liberal arts college in southwestern Colorado, I felt reasonably certain that I knew what the marijuana aspect was. So I was like, okay, I looked into that, and I was like, all right, so as best as I can tell, there's a recreational application for that. And really, I'm going to back up a little bit. So we had the Farm Bill 2014. And the Farm Bill 2014 created a definition and a framework that allowed for states to make the choice for themselves what role, if any, cannabis would play within their borders. So we had some states that came out and said, man, we're just going to go full-scale legalization. Colorado was one of those states. Right. And they quickly rolled out their programs, and and the voters voted, and they said yes, and they thought it looks good, let's do this, and so Colorado was one of the states that did full legalization, which means they opened the door for industrial hemp cultivation, they opened the door for recreational marijuana, they also opened the door for medicinal cannabis products.
Right.
So I was like, okay, this looks like something I can research and get into a little deeper. The recreational line of marijuana is bred to achieve a high level of THC and beautiful giant buds. All right, that's the stuff that's going to produce that euphoric feeling that we associate with getting high.
Right, exactly.
So then we have the medicinal side of it, and I'm going to really briefly touch on this because I am not a doctor. I did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I don't have any. That is like the only place that I can't show up. And of course, there's nothing that can substitute for sound medical advice from your healthcare practitioner, whoever you might be. And I wish you well on whatever journey you're on. It's my understanding that that cannabis in general provides a multitude of medicinal benefits. That's one that I'm not as familiar with, and I do tend to stay away from it because I just don't have like 8 years to spend becoming a doctor to figure that out. So I hand that one over to the to the pros and say, if you've heard of it before, there's nationally recognized doctors that are coming out and providing a lot more information than I could here. So that's yet another application for cannabis or marijuana. Yeah. And then this hemp thing is what we have left, right? And that's this plant that's bred to have like less than 0.3% THC. Yeah. So it's like not going to get anybody high at all.
Right.
Not even a little bit. I tried. It's a wicked headache. It's just not worth it, kids. It's just not worth it.
It ain't the marijuana.
Nope, it's not. It's not that stuff. It's not that stuff at all. So when I started looking into industrial hemp and realized that it was a plant that didn't get anyone high, and then yet it was still illegal in a lot of different places, right? I just presumed that we could grow it because it doesn't get anybody high. I come back to Georgia only to find out that Georgia is not one of the states that took advantage of the legislation that was afforded to it under the Farm Bill of 2014. And I said, why? And I met a lot of really angry people.
I'm sure.
They were mad.
I don't blame them.
They're still mad, some of them.
They're still mad.
They're mad. Mad.
It's like, why not embrace it?
Right. But what I couldn't.
What's the big deal?
Why not? What's the problem? Why aren't we growing this, right? Why can't we just walk out with a handful of seeds and just throw them into the ground and see what happens, right? Like, I guess, in a free world, I suppose we'd be able to do that. In this one, there's certain regulations that do not permit for us to do that. And I really, instead of getting angry, like, oh, I'm so mad that I can't cultivate hemp in Georgia, I tried to come from a place of compassion, right? A place of understanding. Like, I don't want to get mad. Maybe they just don't know. Maybe they just don't know. So I was like, okay, so maybe it's time to launch a campaign of awareness about industrial hemp and stand up and say, hi, my name is Star Captain, and I'm here to talk to you about a crop that has a multitude of benefits. It sequesters carbon at a rate 4 times greater than forests. It improves the quality of the soil where it's been planted. it does not require the use of herbicides, fungicides, nematicides. Did I miss a side? It's pesticides.
All sides.
All sides. Hold the sides, right? So when I started, I was like, wow, I think if we just tell the story about the plant itself without hypothesizing on why it was shut down, why it was rendered illegal, why did we say that people could no longer grow it? And it was grown in the United States. In fact, it was a very important crop in the founding of the United States because a lot of boats came back and forth to set up the United States. A good portion of those boats had ropes and sails that were made from hemp.
Talk about trading too,
right?
That's another factor to add in there.
So it was like, okay, why did this become illegal? And one of the reasons why it became illegal was part of the Reefer Madness campaign. And so without getting too much into what shut it down, because frankly, I'm more interested in setting it free.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to focus on, is the path moving forward. 1937, there was the Marijuana Tax Act. And that basically meant that in order to cultivate hemp, you had to have a stamp, a tax stamp. And the federal government just stopped giving them out. Okay, to be fair, I wasn't there in 1937.
Right.
But this is what I heard, this is what I read, this is what I came to understand is the final recording on it. So industrial hemp did enjoy a brief resurgence during World War II. We had a lack of goods, and obviously there were some restrictions going on because the whole world, was at war. And so what we did as a nation is we encouraged farmers to plant hemp again, and it was called Hemp for Victory. And I've heard some wild estimates about the number of acres of hemp that were planted during World War II, but nonetheless, it was a lot of acres. And then once World War II was done, there were no more marijuana stamps that were being given to allow farmers to cultivate it. Until 2014, when the Farm Bill came up. And they said, hey, let's let the states decide for themselves. Some did, some didn't. Right now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help Georgia become one of those states that does. Now, I am an eternal optimist. And I am not trying to shut down anybody's dreams of walking through Piedmont Park, smoking a joint, but
come on, Georgia, get it together now.
Right.
When
hemp.
When I look at the art of the possible, and within a graspable time frame, like my lifetime, I really feel that with the amount of education and outreach that we're able to provide now, that we can help Georgians understand that if they were to support industrial hemp, they would not be supporting getting people high.
Right.
They're not. It's not going to be moms out there going, "Oh no, now my kids are going to turn into druggies."
That's not the purpose of it at all.
This is a totally industrial-based crop, and as I said, I can honestly tell you, it doesn't get you high because, like I said, I tried. Like I can't sit here and say it doesn't get you high unless I figured it out for myself, and I did, and I do not recommend it. So, we have a bill on the floor right now, and that's due in large part to the lobbying efforts of a lot of really awesome people. Aviva's one of those people. I always give her a shout out because she's just been showing up for like 15 years.
Right.
In the Georgia hemp space, just with the smile on her face.
She's
and
committed.
A tune in her, she has got a tune going for it.
Yes.
And Aviva, if you're listening, I love you.
Hey, Aviva.
Hey, Aviva, what's going on?
I met you a while ago.
Love
My pleasure.
I don't
love
know you, but what's
everything
up, Aviva?
about you, girl, inspired by you on a continual basis. So, due in large part to the continued outreach and the continued efforts of people like Aviva, and especially Aviva, we do have HB 465, House Bill 465. That's on the House floor here in Georgia right now. I do not know how many sponsors it has right now. I do know that if you are in Representative Pezzold's district, call that man up and tell him I said thank you very much, because he's a trendsetter. This is not the first time that he has tried to introduce this legislation. We do hope that this time will be the successful time.
Right.
And there are a lot of other cannabis-related reform bills that are on the floor right now. I know that, like, for instance, the Peachtree Normal Group.
Peachtree. Mm-hmm.
Excellent people.
They're great.
Super people. Again, shout out to all of them, too.
Yeah, shout out, Peachtree Normal.
I like Sharon and Tyler. You guys are they're working their butts off out there.
Yes, they are. They just had a meeting.
And they're doing. They're of course they're looking
awesome.
for some reforms in the form of decriminalization, and there's so many different aspects of this particular crop and this particular plant that we can support. Now, I've chosen to use my voice to help people understand that industrial hemp does not, cannot, and will not get you high.
I wish people stop barking on it, like having their mind there. It's not.
Well,
if you really taking their minds to the I'm gonna get high part, like
I get in trouble sometimes from the other supporters, even to the point of being called a hypocrite because I'm supporting the non-THC version.
Oh wow!
Right, unexpected, right? But I
Yeah.
understand it because in this world, there's a place for everyone to have their passion.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's
love
very
what
true.
you love, and I'm gonna love what I
But
love.
you're supposed to be
Exactly.
able to understand multiple things at what you do in life, your purpose. Not just understanding from one perspective. You're supposed to be able to be open to a lot of things, to have a full understanding. So when people say that, it's kind of like one-minded, or they're not universal.
So true. It's so true. And
That's that
there's.
closed-mindedness.
I have pulled myself back a little bit on this talk about industrial hemp, and I've thought to myself, wow, it's probably the most useful and the most misunderstood plant out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about the polarity within the group that even supporters of this one crop, like, I don't know, I've never hung around with, like, people that are like cultivating corn and love corn. Like, to the guys that are growing the white corn, are they like, oh, look at those guys over there growing the blue corn, like they suck, we're good. Like, I don't know. So it's entirely possible that is one of the cases. But it came down to this, ladies. I couldn't see any reason as a mother, as a human, as a woman, as an executive, as an entrepreneur, I couldn't see one reason or one downside as to why we don't let farmers cultivate hemp. And that's when I started to say, hey, I can understand how the smear campaign against cannabis gained traction, but industrial hemp, I cannot. And the fact that it was guilty by association makes me feel right now like maybe I have an opportunity here to contribute in some small way to the solving of a cold case. Like,
That's
we got somebody out there that was falsely imprisoned for an act that they didn't commit. And for us falsely imprisoning this crop, we are inhibiting our own ability to benefit from a multitude of applications from it. It feels like we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Because they lack understanding.
And we got this Dateline out there, and cold case files, and like the whole investigation Discovery Channel, right? I've fallen into that rabbit hole more than once, okay? And I was like, why do I keep watching these cold case files? And then it came
What is
to
interesting
me.
on watching that stuff?
I was like, you know what? Nobody should have to go to jail for something they didn't do. And in my opinion, industrial hemp was jailed for something it didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that it should stay in jail, and I think that we should allow Georgia farmers to cultivate it.
Absolutely.
And I'll relax, I suppose, when they're allowed to do that.
Well, Georgia needs to get it together.
Yes, get it
ASAP.
together, Georgia.
Embrace hemp. Let it do its job because it's helping the planet. Okay, Georgia? It's not that deep. Thank you very much.
It's not.
Advocate
It's
for
really
hemp.
not.
It's serious.
Yeah, it's not posing any threat to anything. You'll hear
Right.
people say, oh, it's a competition for the cotton industry, and oh, it's a competition for the timber industry, and oh, it's a competition for the paper, or oh, it's the pharmaceuticals, or oh, it's big oil, or oh, it's this, or oh, it's that. It all just sounds like a whole bunch of excuses. I think it's a
Yes.
lack of full understanding
Standing.
that, you know what? We are the citizens. We elect people to represent us. If we do not call those people and tell them what we want for them to support, then we have no one to blame but ourselves for the failure of our system.
That's true.
So I love to pick up the phone and call my legislators. I'm like, hey, hi, how are you? It's me again.
Blowing your phone up.
Did you sign that yet? I remember back in the fall being at a meeting with Aviva, and we went to see Congressman Woodall. Sir, if you're listening, thank you. It was a really fun meeting. And what a great guy, just a really, really great guy. I mean, heck, he took the meeting to talk about hemp. And we showed up and we visited, and I believe Aviva had met with him prior. And, when I showed up in his office, I guess I forgot to mention that I also serve on the Metro North Georgia Water Planning District as a Flint River Basin Advisory Council member.
Okay.
Okay.
So when I say that, like, water treatment and water quality and critical infrastructures, like our lights, our water, our toilets
Essential
flushing,
things.
that
Essential
stuff
things for
matters to me
It
in a
does.
big
Really
way. So it mattered to me so much that I went down and decided to serve. And as a part of that, I had access to water quality reports. And I love all this business about Standing Rock, right? I love it when people come together to join forces to overcome or stop or change the direction that things might be going because of a group collective effort that says, hey, that doesn't feel good. I don't like that. What I love even more is when we have an opportunity to provide that same type of a service at the local level. Like, I care about Standing Rock. Do you know what I care about even more? That when I turn on the faucet in Peachtree City, that the water that I'm getting there meets the standards.
Cause that's what it's about.
That's what
Making
it's about.
things happen.
Point of views.
Because
And
people
it-
can sit and complain all day, but if you're not doing nothing, then what good is it? It's not changing the situation or the problems that's going on around you. So, yeah.
Somebody should do something about it.
Right.
And
True.
if you're the kind of person that turns that finger around on yourself and goes, well, wait a minute, I'm somebody. Remember how I told you that I just couldn't understand how those boys back in the Navy, they didn't realize that I was that. They didn't know that I was as important as I was. What I didn't know is that I hadn't really done anything all that important yet. So there was no reason for them to stop and really give me that attention.
That's
You
true.
know?
Yeah.
So when we stand up and we see something that's going on the local level and we see a way that we can impact our day-to-day life on the local level, like at the point of use, I say, man, there's an opportunity there, a huge opportunity there. So can I go out and take on the whole world? I love that, by the way, that you said that was like a superhero, like a superhero. Like,
Yes, a superhero.
Trips me out every time I see it, like, all right, Superwoman.
Yeah.
I feel something about that. I do. I feel an affinity with that for sure. And, on the local level, I feel is where we can make the most impactful changes, And if we're doing it from a place of genuinely wanting to impact and leave a positive mark wherever we've walked, we'll find a billion opportunities to devote ourselves to something that's happening right in our own backyards. And the phytoremediative aspects of hemp felt doubly important to me given the fact that the Flint River Basin, we are constantly pretty much being sued by Florida. So we have an active lawsuit that's going on right now in the Supreme Court between Georgia and Florida, Florida v. Georgia. And it's really to do with the water quality and supply issues relative to the basin that I serve on, the Flint River Basin. Now, one of the things that stops the Flint River from being able to continue to provide flow at a quality that Florida would deem acceptable is the fact that that river begins at Hartsfield-Jackson, right there at the airport. So we're not going to move the airport,
True.
right?
Nope,
I
it's
mean,
not going
not at all.
nowhere.
I don't think so. I think
going
we're gonna pass recreational marijuana in Georgia before we move Hartsfield-Jackson. That's
Right.
just like I'm not a fortune teller or anything, but I think that would be more
That's a
likely.
given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what can we do, right? We can look at other ways that we can help improve that water as it flows down to our wonderful neighbors in Florida. And one of the ways that we could do that would be to do some more responsible farming, right? Not
sure.
that conventional farming isn't great,
Right.
but I'm not the only person who's showing up talking about organic. Maybe if you've been to a grocery store lately or watched the television or been on Facebook, you know there's a difference between conventional crops and organic crops.
That's true.
And the number one difference is the amount of pesticides, herbicides, or the fact that those are being used, and we can't call something organic if we're using all of those chemicals.
Right.
GMOs and
All of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a freaky story about how some of
That
those
is,
GMO
yes.
crops need to be
So-
sprayed with an herbicide before they can even germinate. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, we're killing it to make it live. I don't know, that sounds whack, but okay. So when we start looking at that, then that does have a secondary effect on the water quality.
Right.
So we have all these huge farms, and we're growing whatever we're growing. But in the conventional farming scenario, we're growing it with the assistance of a lot of chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And if we overapply those chemicals and then water comes in the form of rain, because that happens, farmers actually hope for it a lot, but not too much, because if we get too much, then everything that we just sprayed
Destroyed, yeah.
then runs off into our waterways and
Yeah.
off it goes
Right.
to who knows where. But it's not doing really great things when it gets into the water supply.
Absolutely.
And we have all these parts per million of some corrosive or neurotoxic material that then ends up what? Like, it feeds the animals that are in there, it feeds the fish, the birds, like the whole ecosystem becomes impacted by that. And you
That's
know
true.
what? For as much as we try to separate ourselves from nature on occasion,
Can't separate it.
we can't separate
Separate.
ourselves
It's
completely from
synonymous.
it.
It's always going to intertwine.
I don't care if
some
you're
kind of way.
vegan. I don't care if you eat meat like nobody's business. You're going to be impacted by conventional farming in some way, shape, or form as long as
True.
you're on planet Earth.
Because even when they feed the animals, and then, at times a lot of farms, help bigger companies who's involved in, okaying GMOs and all sorts of toxic chemicals in the foods and the fruits, in the crops. But then, you do have those that kill the animals and they sell those. So no telling what's in that.
There's no
either.
telling. Yeah.
It's all kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Scary.
there's no telling. There's no telling. So even if we were to introduce a crop such as, now I'm not here to take down conventional farming. Like, actually, as it turns out, I'm here to talk about hemp, but not at the expense of any other crop or any other industry. Like, just saying, hey, we don't have to topple any existing structure to allow for hemp to provide an immediate benefit to Georgia's farmers and its citizens alike. Absolutely nothing within the existing framework of Georgia has to be turned upside down. We don't have to have a revolution. We don't have to start riots. I think we can just go and talk to our legislators and ask them nicely, hey, please, would you support this?
Right.
We can start there. Now, I do have a black belt in Taekwondo, so if any of those legislators give you a hard time, it's not that I don't know how to pick a fight. I just don't pick it until I need to.
That's true.
That's
And
true.
I think we need to give people an opportunity
Let
to
things
get
coexist.
up to speed with what it is that we're asking them to do.
Right.
Like, and come on, it's a reasonable question. When I was in Congressman Woodall's office and he says, oh, great, I can just see what the memes are going to look like now. And I was like, beg pardon, sir? And he said, well, he says, I've signed this thing about hemp. Somebody's going to make a meme. It says Congressman Woodall. It's probably going to have a big joint next to it. Congressman Woodall loves to get our kids high. And I was like, and he said, we can't really have the discussion about industrial hemp without having the discussion about recreational marijuana. And I said, with respect, sir, I disagree. We can. And I said, if we in Georgia are not afraid, I said, kids are going to have as much luck getting high smoking Bermuda grass clippings. I tried. As they are going to have smoking
That's
hemp.
some loose stuff right there.
I'm going to say, right?
Somebody that's listening want to try that.
It is
Ooh,
not
what
worth
a
it.
Brazilian-
It's a trap. Don't do it. But in the interest of giving honest feedback, I said to the man, kids are going to have as much luck getting high smoking Bermuda grass clippings as they are going to get, smoking industrial hemp. And I said, and sir, with that in mind, if we are in Georgia are not afraid of golf courses, then where is the justification to an aversion to a hemp field? And he looked at me, he goes, you're good. He's like, you're good. And I was like, I'm just getting warmed up, buddy. I'm just getting warmed up. And so, it was good. I believe we have a friend there in Congressman Woodall. He understands, and most people do when we take the time. But it's all in the presentation.
Right, that's very
If
true.
I come in and I'm hooting and hollering and telling everybody, you big jerks, I can't believe you didn't do this. I can't believe you haven't done this. You big do like whatever. You know what?
Be turned up
like I'm the super, I'm a super nice person. But if somebody comes at me like that, I'm gonna say no just cause.
Right.
That's true.
Just cause I can, because I don't like the way you came at me.
But we could just sit down and have a reasonable, calm conversation, and everybody just be able to talk without the hollering,
cussing and screaming.
You can get things accomplished. I mean, I know people do be upset about things. We're not saying don't dismiss it. It's just you have to channel that energy. That's all.
There's a time to get upset. They haven't told me no yet. They haven't told me no yet.
But just imagine if you went up in there.
We haven't asked everybody yet.
Right.
They haven't told me no yet.
Right.
Just imagine you went up in there yelling, hollering.
My hair will turn on fire, ladies. I will light it up. But let's give them a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give them a chance. And I think that if we take the time as the citizens to educate ourselves on what this crop is, what it can do for us, because my favorite aspects of hemp are the fact that it can be used to clean up contaminated locations. It sequesters carbon, so it provides an immediate benefit to the atmosphere right now. Mm-hmm. And then once you're done, once it's finished its growing cycle and it reaches the point where it can be harvested, we can turn it into 25,000 different things. That means there's something in there for everyone. It's a wonderful welcome addition to an organic farmer's crop rotation. So, you don't just show up and say, hey, here, buy my strawberries. They're organic. There's a whole certification process. And part of that process is you have to identify for several growing cycles, I believe it's 7, that you have to provide what your crop rotation is going to be. Because absent of the herbicides and the pesticides and the fungicides, you have to be very careful about the rotation in which you plant your vegetables and your fruits.
Yes, yeah.
Because otherwise monocropping and things like that, they allow for certain, undesirable conditions to crop up in the soil. So what we want is certain crops to follow other crops because one's a heavy nitrogen user and one is a heavy nitrogenator. And so we'll leave all the details on that to the organic farmers. Mm-hmm. But inserting a hemp rotation anywhere in there, there's an area I think where it would provide the most benefit. Hey, organic farmers, you guys work that out once we get it legal. So let me know when you figure that out. But what the answer for hemp is that we can provide it as a rotational crop, and it's very different than most of the rotational crops that farmers are using. We'll overwinter in Georgia often with a clover. Mm-hmm. But that clover isn't really, we don't harvest it, and it doesn't really provide any benefit to the farmer's bottom line per se, not in the form of a finished good. It's not like a sellable crop. It ends up being mulched back into the ground and turned into green compost. Mm-hmm. So with hemp, when we add that in, there's some evidence to suggest that it helps to control soybean cyst nematode populations. I don't know. I'm not the scientist. I'm just trying to open the door so the scientists can start looking at it. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is that once that rotation crop is harvested, a farmer can turn it into an extra income point and still have the green compost left into. So adding value into the organic farmer's rotation. Works out for everybody. Right. No real downside. No real downside. And of course, we can make textiles, fuel, food. One of the tags that people will use is food, fuel, fiber. There's pretty much anything. We can make bioplastics from hemp. I mean, we can make just about anything. I saw recently, these laser 3D printers that you feed in a polymer. It's on a spool. Yeah, fishing, looks like fishing line, super thick fishing line. And you feed that into a 3D printer and it'll print out whatever. Typically a plastic is used for that.
Wow.
Seen where they're making it out of hemp. Super sustainable crop. Again, multitude of benefits. It also in the textile industry, it has antibacterial properties as an actual fiber, as a textile, as a linen. You know, it's just every time I turn around, it seems like this plant is capable of doing one more thing than what I expected. And every time I turn around, you know, every person I meet, there is some common thread about hemp. And I think the deepest common thread is the fact that we each have an endocannabinoid system in our bodies. And our endocannabinoid systems are starving. I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm also not a nutritionalist. Like,
Right.
I drink a lot of coffee today. Like, I don't even want to answer to a nutritionalist. However, I do know that all the research that I've done, and I would encourage everybody to go out, please, and do some research on your endocannabinoid system.
Won't have to research that.
Yeah, it's the interconnecting bits that hold all of our parts
That
together.
will be tonight researching.
Oh, yeah.
So the endocannabinoid system can be fed with hemp. And you have all these different cannabinoids. And hemp's not the only crop that produces a cannabinoid. We can also get CBD, which is cannabidiol. CBD is the abbreviation for that particular cannabinoid. There's over 113 at last time I checked that have been identified in the cannabis plant, 2 of which we hear about the most. And that would be the THC and the CBD.
Right.
So we can get CBD in our diets from a variety of other things. In fact, the human body produces CBD. So breast milk is rich in CBDs. In CBD, you've also got carrots have CBDs in them. Echinacea. There's black pepper, I believe, and cacao.
What's cacao?
Yeah, it's like the stuff
Oh, wow.
that turns into chocolate.
Oh, damn.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, I know. Okay.
Yes.
So
Okay.
So there's a lot of things out there that do produce CBD. The most, like the highest concentration and the most overall beneficial plant that I've come across that can give us that food that we need and that extra boost to our own endocannabinoid system is hemp, industrial hemp-derived CBD.
Interesting.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, I'm going to definitely have to
Check that
research
out.
more into him. Because I've been seeing it popping up a lot, especially on the social media platform. I just been seeing him. So there's got to be something great about this because apparently it's picking up momentum. Because you always hear about marijuana, but then, you know, I just started seeing stuff about him. So now it makes me want to research it more and find out more about him.
So it's
Yeah.
calling to you. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to hear what you find, Uno, and I can't wait to hear if that plant starts talking to you and telling you to do something about it too.
You just never know.
I'm not trying to project my story onto you or anything, but I feel like I've seen this movie before somewhere.
I just think it'd be something that I have some knowledge of and, you know, I can apply it in some way.
And tell your friends, right?
Yeah.
Tell
Definitely.
everybody, right? Everybody. 'Cause I'll tell you, I went out and I looked for a reason to not support it. Like, I went out and I looked for, okay, where is this one going to come back and bite me in the ass? Like, what am I setting myself up for? And I kept looking, 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 and hemp has never bit me in the ass. Other cannabis supporters have, for me not using my voice to support the higher THC versions. But regardless of how I feel about that, I felt that industrial hemp needed an educated, informed, focused lobby. That it needed a voice that was going to stick to the facts about hemp, that was going to provide information in a non-inflammatory, non-incendiary, non-judgmental, and non-controversial way. To just stand up and say, hey, did you hear about this industrial crop called hemp? And if you didn't, you're fixing to. So my friends at first were like, seriously, do you talk about anything other than hemp? And I was like, not yet. We have to get it passed, and then I can talk about other things. So it keeps me up at night. Some of my friends refer to it as plant medicine. You know, I don't know if I'm helping it or if it's helping me, but I will say that standing up for something that I believed in more than whatever small problem was facing me that day has enhanced my experience as a human It's enriched my interactions with others. It's made me a better parent. It's made me a better steward of the environment. It's made me more conscious of the steps that I take. And it's made me feel more connected to God, source energy, whatever it is. And at the same time, a lot more accepting of everyone else and their unique expression. So I don't know, it's helped me in as many ways as I've attempted to help it. And I look forward to the day that I can be there, hopefully, when we get the first industrial hemp seeds planted in the ground in Georgia.
In Georgia. Well, I know I wasn't familiar with hemp until I actually went to an event that they were having. I think it was Peachtree Normal they were having. They had that event in Little Five Points at the community center. And I had the opportunity, and I can't think of his name. I'm so sorry, but you gave me that ride in that beautiful car. And I can't think of his name. He travels all over with that little red car. Can't think of his name.
Bruce?
It might be Bruce.
Is he the guy with the cannabis car?
Yes.
I haven't ever met him, but
he was really pretty.
I love cars. I love hemp. I love him by default. Yeah.
And I was like the first person that got that ride. Because I think they were doing like a donation thing. They wound up doing like a donation. I was like, oh, what the hell? I'm gonna put this donation in. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get this ride. But then he was like, they had like this meet and greet break, and he was like, hi. And I was like, hi. And I was in the car, and we started talking. It was so interesting because, I mean, from my end, I'm more, of course, on a personal and a little bit of business avenue of cannabis, especially from, well, of course, recreational once upon a time, but living in California and Sacramento and San Francisco, like, oh, this is the cannabis. No one never spoke about hemp. And then I was like, okay, so when I went there, I got my quick little 101 education, and then I saw like the t-shirts and the different things that was made of hemp, and I had to participate, and I bought me some hemp items, and I'm so excited, and I'm like, hemp milk, what the hell is this? And I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, am I getting ready to get high? I'm about to lose my job because I want to drink it because it looks so good, So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a chance. And I think somebody had told me, and they was like, no, you won't get high. I was like, okay, good. And then I fell in love with that hemp milk. I just did, and everything just felt right for me being there. Because I'm humanitarian myself, and I'm all about the earth and the water and all of that. And I actually work at the city of Atlanta in the water department, so I'm just constantly like, y'all need to do better, and I'm running my mouth, and they're like, oh, sit down, girl, but I'm like, no, you really need to do water. You are the water department. Why does this water taste so fucking nasty in this place? It's coming out brown, it's disgusting, it's so bad you can smell it. And I'm like, nah, I can't touch this. So I've really been getting more interested in hemp. I have not had the opportunity yet to go to their meetings, the Peachtree Normal meetings at, what is it? What tavern is it?
Manuel's?
That's it. So I hope to go next month because I missed it this month.
Well, I'll tell you, we have another.
So it's the first Tuesday of the month. First Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, they just had that meeting.
It was around my birthday, and I was like, no, I want to do me. And I think I got caught up in something else. But anywho, my plan is to go next month.
And happy belated birthday to you, by the way. I loved watching your guys' show from your birthday. It was fantastic. So I wasn't able to make the last Peachtree Normal meeting either. And here's the great news, that in addition to those regular meetings, which I'm not familiar with, but I can say that the people that I have met are amazing. I would look for any opportunity to just sit and roll with them, you know.
They are.
That we do have, that the Peachtree Normal Group is putting together an event. It's coming up soon.
Nice.
It's called the 420 Rally at the Capitol.
At the Capitol, yes.
And the date on that will be April 20th.
April 20th.
April 20th.
420.
That's right.
420.
420. Yeah, so that's 420. It's a perfect day for us to come together and lobby for rights. It's also real close to, was like Tree Day, Earth Day.
Tree Day, Earth Day,
what better way to celebrate the earth than to be like, hey, by the way, did you guys hear about this thing called hemp.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not
Right,
saying we should
right.
do away with the forest or even that we should do away with those carbon capture and storage facilities that are costing us billions of dollars every year. No, we don't need to do away with those, but maybe we could give them a helping hand by
Yes.
planting a crop that's not going to hurt anybody. And so what the Peachtree Normal Group has done, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, historically they have been significantly invested and involved in raising all legislative barriers to
Yes,
the plant.
to the
Now,
plant, yes.
regardless of how I feel personally, my responsibility that I've made to myself is that I will show up for hemp. Mm-hmm. So I just don't confuse the issue with any of my personal feelings or opinions or whatever about the other sides of this particular plant, although I do think it's absolutely ridiculous for us to hold a plant hostage.
Right.
I'll just say that. So, I think as everyone becomes more aware of the multitude of applications of this plant, and I'm not suggesting that the Peachtree Normal Group wasn't aware of it, but what I will say is that at this point we found a great synergy between the Peachtree Normal Group and the group that I created, which is called Indie Hemp. And that's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's on, thank you so much for telling everybody how to find me on
Yes,
the flyer for
that's
our
right,
show
right.
today.
Definitely.
Is that
They need
what,
to
what
get
we're
informed about him. That's
well,
a
what-
great way to do it.
we're looking at, somebody said there were 25,000 different uses for industrial hemp. And I'm the girl who wants to say you can't get high by smoking Bermuda grass clippings, so I'm going to go smoke them and find out, right? So smoke them if you got them. I want to check out what these 25,000 uses are for hemp, and I intend to continue to showcase them on Indie Hemp. So if you were wondering, about hemp milk, if you're wondering about hemp fiber, if you're wondering
Yes.
about hemp fuel, if you're wondering about hemp sex products.
They got
Yes.
sex products? Wow.
They do.
They do.
I brought you guys a gift today.
Yes, they
so
do.
they have
See our little
Wow,
gift.
she just threw that in there.
Yes, oh yes, she got it. Yes, I saw this before. Lovely.
So I want to prove them right
Yes.
or wrong, as the case may be.
Yes.
And
Appreciate that.
thank you, ladies, so much for having me. I wanted to prove them right or wrong. Are there really 25,000 uses? I don't know. Let's hold on to our hats and go find out.
I know we need to find out. Chit Chat Chew Show needs to find out with Indie Hemp. Is there 25 uses? Seriously,
Right. Yeah,
I want to know.
That's going to be our
I wanna
project,
know.
our assignment.
I know we need to know that.
I will say that
That's right.
Yeah.
I tried the
That's
hemp
right.
milk. I tried the hemp milk. I didn't have the same experience that you had, but my heart and my soul just gets so warm and happy when I hear that you did, because
I
the
did.
grain itself, the seeds, when I eat the seeds, I'm not a nutritionalist, not even a little bit. I eat when I'm hungry. I eat what I'm hungry for, and I really like coffee. So I started including hemp seeds, and then I started showing up as the hemp girl. So people were like, "Hey, Star Captain, did you try this? Hey, Star Captain, did you try this? Hey, Star Captain, did you try that?" And what I found out is that as I was eating the seeds, and whatever hemp-based product I could find on the shelf, if it says hemp on it, I'm buying it
Right,
and eating it.
right.
Probably doing a Facebook Live video about it, letting you all know. Maybe Snapchat too.
Yeah.
Okay, so most of the time, I'm not showered or ready yet, so the bunny filter in Snapchat helps me do a lot of product demos. Thank goodness for Snapchat and their
Yes.
filters. I get so much more done because
Right.
nobody knows that I didn't take a
So
shower
many
yet.
people use them filters, though, man.
I love them.
It comes overrated after a while.
Does
Everybody and
it?
their mama use.
We haven't
Snapchat
used it
for-
yet.
No, we haven't.
We have to try that. Yeah. Well, now that we have a virtual assistant that can help us.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, the
Yeah.
bunny filter's my favorite. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna have to try
But
that.
so once I started
I'll try
eating
it.
hemp,
Yeah.
I realized that I felt something change in my body. I felt something happen where the more that I ate hemp, the more that I felt nourished. The more that I don't know, it's something about it. The more that I eat hemp, the more I want to eat hemp. And it doesn't get you high.
No. It really,
And
it
it's,
really
and
did.
it's natural, so it's not gonna hurt you.
It's a plant.
plant.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's a plant, and much the same as there's many plants out there that I hope that people wouldn't smoke, you know, like as
Do a lot of people
I was
ask you
going to
that
sit here and
question?
say that I don't smoke, but you know what, lately people have been telling me, you know, I got to make certain comments and I have to check it out. So like, you know, I'm running my own little game of the anarchist cookbook over here and figuring out,
So a
you
lot
know,
of
what
people
works.
ask you that question, like when they want to find out about him or they're curious about it. Is it the question they ask? Is the first thing? Can you get high?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all, you know, and bless him for asking that question, because I think
Right.
that's the relevant question
That's
to
the right-
ask.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the one. So I found myself out at Sapelo Island not too long ago. And I met the coolest lady ever. Her name is Miss Cornelia, and she wrote a book. And I've forgotten what the name of the book was, but it's something about the Bolito Man. And Miss Cornelia is part of, I believe it's called, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, you guys, please help me out here. Like, little faith, little compassion. I only just met her. So she is like the matriarch of the tribe. Is the Geechee, I believe is what she calls?
The Geechee.
The Geechee Gula, is that right?
Geechee.
Okay.
Geechee Gula.
So I found myself out at Sapelo Island, and if any of you have ever been out there, you know it's not the easiest place to get to. One of the sea islands off the coast of Georgia. I think it's like an hour from Brunswick. But
Okay.
anyway, it's a sign in, sign out island. You can't get to the island any way other than boat.
Okay.
So it's a ferry, you know, you don't take your own car over. It's not even a ferry that transports cars. The only way in is that you either have to make a reservation or be a guest of someone that lives there. And I think there's like a whopping like 30, 40 people that live there year round. It's probably a little bit more than that. I'm sure that you have listeners that are far more informed about this whole issue. If they know Miss Cornelia, tell her Star Captain
Yes.
said hi. So I was out there with Miss Cornelia and I was looking around. And so here's the way that it works in other states where they have passed industrial hemp legislative reform. Typically what happens is the first introduction to it is on research and development basis. So that means that we have a university, an accredited university or organization, you know, an educational organization. It's historically been universities and colleges. And they will work with farmers or, you know, however the program works out. But it's done on a nonprofit basis for research and development. And I kept thinking to myself, like, where would be a great place to do this, you know? And just because of life, I've had lots of exposure to UGA and some of the, you know, their agricultural departments, like even their extension campus out in Griffin. I've spent a lot of time out there at the experiment lab. They've got, you know, the Southeast Region Seed Bank is right there in Griffin. I've been out to the Milledgeville Greenhouse Complex, took organic farming workshops there, met some really, really, really amazing plant scientists that, like, I mean, these people are like plant savants, right? They'll just, like, they'll blow your mind. They can get into a level of detail on this stuff that I can't. And when I went out to Sapelo, I started to read this book because it was on the table there, and it was the person who had invited me to come had this book there, and I started reading about the history of the Geechee Gula tribes here, you know, in Georgia, and I had no idea. I was like, oh, wow, this is really, really fascinating. And I just sat there. I was like, I would love to meet this woman. Like, I would absolutely love to meet her. And then, you know, be careful what you ask for. You just might get it.
Yeah.
Poor thing has me knocking on her front door going, who is this white woman that's coming in here? Like, she's almost looking at me like, why are you bugging me? And I was like, I don't know. I read your book. And it was funny because, you know, I'm a reader. I'm a learner. I can read really fast. I couldn't get past page 9. Like, I kept reading her book, and it was the words that she was using were so impactful to me that I had to keep going back and rereading it. I was like, what did she really say there? Like, that was like a throat punch. Like, I liked that, you know, like that one got my attention, right? So when I went to her house and introduced myself just to say hi, I was like trying to explain to her, like, I'm really impacted by your book. And I keep trying to read it, and I can't get past page 9. She's like, not a very strong reader there, are you?
She had to throw that
Hit below
shot.
the belt.
And you know what?
You slow?
That's what I get showing up unannounced at that poor woman's house. But you know what? She was a doll, and she let me in, and I thank her for that. And we sat down at the table, and she started talking about agriculture. And she started talking about how DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, had given her acreage on Sapelo Island. And you know, there's a struggle going on there, and they have a nonprofit, and I would encourage everybody to look into it. It's SICARS, I believe, the Sapelo Island. It's look it up. You know what? We'll put a post on. I'll make sure that you have a link for it, because there's ways to support Miss Cornelia, and you know what? That lady impacted me, and I'd love to see what, you know, make sure that people know about her, because she, whether she knows it or not, has been a part of my hemp journey. Because as I went out there to Sapelo and I looked around, I rode a bicycle like all the way up and down and like the whole thing, and then I saw, it was the craziest thing. It's a sign in, sign out island. So nobody's on that's not meant to be there. Nobody's off that's not meant to be there. If you came in the morning and you weren't supposed to stay there overnight, they're going to come find you. But the land is being gobbled up. All right, it's either DNR or it's outsiders. And part of what Miss Cornelia was writing about was the struggle to keep the young folks there. Right? This is a culture that has been largely undisturbed and remained intact, and these traditions and these celebrations and things that we would otherwise have no access to at all.
Right.
You know, there's a group in place there that keeps those traditions alive, and that's something we can all benefit from and learn from. But they're losing their youth because there is no industry there. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
How can they make a living? They all end up going, you know, and then they shut down their school. So, you know, you take a community school away,
Right.
and you take away kind of the heart of it. And I know that, you know, with Miss Cornelia writing about that, and, you know, and I felt really impacted by that too. I'm a mom. Like, don't take my kid's school away, man. Like, I'm real sweet until you do something like that. Yeah. And then, you know, she started talking about it, and then from reading the book and everything else, and I suggested to her, I was like, hey, you know, it'd be a perfect place to grow hemp. And she says, oh, girl, get out of here now if you think you're going to get me growing marijuana. And she giggled and laughed, and then she said, you know, actually, it's true. I had a friend in Jamaica that did that. And then they shut them down because they were making it for rope, and they started making the rope out of nylon, started making it out of plastic materials. And I was like, Miss Cornelia, you know, they've come full circle on that again now, too. And we're finding out that the hemp-based fibers are even stronger than what that petroleum-based, you know, polymer that they're using for nylon is. We can take it right back to hemp and make a plastic out of it. So try as I might, I haven't yet convinced Miss Cornelia that she should lobby to be the first location in Georgia to plant hemp on a research and development basis in partnership with a local university, but I sure hope it is her, because I think it would be a great place to do it. I know that they're planting red beans out there. Historically, it was a farming community. You know, that would be, to me, what a way that we could help a couple of different segments. We already have an agricultural community there. We have the partnership of the local universities, and as Miss Cornelia said, in the historical aspect of it, there was a lot more coordination between the university and the local folks, and truly local folks were being hired and getting paid. And according to Miss Cornelia, now that's not the way that it's going. Now it's, you know, it's they take care of their own, and they take care of their own, and the right hand's not necessarily talking to the left hand. And I just, you know, anywhere that I see a possibility for hemp to help to unify people and bring a solution to the planet and draw us closer to Mother Nature and keep our babies at home and maybe make sure that our schools stay open. And I don't know, that it's obviously not the only target location where hemp could be planted, but and I'm sorry, Miss Cornelia, if you're listening and you don't really want to be a hemp farmer, but I'm praying for it to happen.
It won't get you high.
It's one of, and Miss Cornelia understood that full well. She understood that full well.
It could benefit the environment.
Yeah. It could, and it could bring a benefit to people that really, really, really could use it right now.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So it's one of the things we're doing out in Colorado as well. And the farmer that I've partnered with on my hemp farm, because I got involved. I got really involved, and fast forward from that time that I got the phone call all the way to now, and now I'm a hemp farmer. And I've partnered with someone who is an actual farmer, so I have a reasonable expectation that the farm life is going to, I'll be able to get into it in slower, come up to speed, acclimate to that a little bit with his help. And, one of the things that we're doing out west is really, really looking at applications for hemp to make an appearance on Native American lands as well. That, if it's the earth that's hurting and there's people that are hurting, then I think we could really do ourselves all the favor of taking this great plant that wants to do nothing but provide benefits to humanity and put it into the hands of those people that need it most.
That's true.
Absolutely.
That's what it's about.
I have nothing against the big farms planting it, but I'd also love to see it be cultivated and to see the agronomic, economic, and environmental positive impacts happen for those who need it most.
Absolutely. I agree.
So your name, how did you come up with Star Captain? Like, what is the meaning behind that name? It's catchy.
Thank you so much.
It is catchy.
Thank you so much. So, I used to be afraid of a lot of things, and then one day I saw a sign, like a wooden sign, and it said skydiving on it. It was a terrible sign, actually. It was like hand-painted skydiving. It almost looked like something out of a horror flick, because like the paint didn't quite dry, and so there were bits of like on the K where it was like dripping down, and I was actually afraid of a sign. Like the sign didn't jump out in front of me or do anything. I just am driving a car with my mom and my daughter, and we were in Key West. And I looked up, saw a sign, and literally got scared. There was no immediate threat to me. It was just a sign. And I realized, you're a pussy. Knock it off,
Must have been some psychological thing.
Put on your big girl panties and deal with it, whatever this is that's scaring you. And I thought, I wonder what it would feel like to not be afraid. So I figured there's only one way to find out. I'm going to go skydiving. Now, historically, I was afraid of heights. Maybe I might handle a roller coaster here or there, but I'm not going to the top of a building with you and looking off the edge. Sorry, it makes my stomach turn in knots, and, no, absolutely not. So I thought, okay, well, if I do that, I'm either going to die or I'm going to survive it, and then I'm going to have to find something else to be afraid of if I choose to be afraid. So I did. I went up on my birthday, my 39th birthday, and I jumped out of an airplane in Key West.
Wow.
And it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I realized that I
didn't even do all that.
I realized I had wasted days with fear. Days. Literally days. Because I had seen this sign on the way into town, and then I had to sit with it for a while, right? And make it like this hard choice that I was going to make about how afraid I was of this stupid sign. So on the way out of town, I was like, no, we're going to conquer that fear. And if I want to then force myself to be afraid of something, I'll have to find something else to be afraid of. So I jumped out of that airplane, and I loved it so much that I came home, and I couldn't figure out who I was more impressed with. The guy that taught me how to skydive and took me on my first tandem, or the guy that was flying the plane. And, this was a little tiny plane. There was one seat for the pilot. It was a Cessna. We had to file in facing backwards. There were 3 of us in there, but we're it's like on a Southwest flight. We're all facing backwards, looking the wrong way, sitting on top of each other. And I'm we get up to 5,000 feet, and it's almost like looking out the window. It's oh, please no. Oh, please no. Oh, please no. No. And they're do you know how high we are? I'm are we there? They're we're at about 5,000 feet. We're going up to 10. And I remember in that moment looking out the window thinking, how? I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm just going to have a heart attack and die. That's it. This guy's still going to get to skydive. He's going to have to do it with a corpse. I'm not going to make it. So then I decided, no. And honestly, I started thinking about my ancestors and, and the journeys that they walked and how many troubles they must have encountered along their way. And I thought, put on your big girl panties and do it. So I did. I just closed my eyes and I surrendered and I did it. And then I came home and I signed up for private pilot training. I signed up for skydiving lessons, accelerated free fall. I wanted to jump on my own.
Nah, they can't tell you nothing.
I wanted to fly the planes. I wanted to do it all. And so I just couldn't keep myself out of the sky. And I had been dating someone and he said to me, Star Captain Steph, I like it. And I was like, you know what? I like that too. And I figured that, so I have a colorful life history. I'm twice divorced. I was adopted growing up. I've had more last names that have been given to me by men than I can count. And I was like, you know what? Forget it. This time around, I'm gonna pick my own name, and that one I liked. So I was like, Star Captain. It was to do with all.
I love that Star Captain.
It was to do with all the time I was spending in the air. Yeah, it was to do with all the time I was spending in the air. And then, as the good Lord often does, I got a little bit big for my britches and broke my foot. So I had to take a break from skydiving. And it was during that break from skydiving and piloting that I attended an event called Awesomeness Fest. And I was encouraged in that event to live my life to the greatest potential, to encourage myself to achieve the level of success that would be comfortable for me while also making a positive impact on humanity. And that if my problems were about what I was going to wear or who liked me or what color, trivial stuff, that my problems weren't big enough. So it was really, it was a setup. I believe that the good Lord set me up every step of the way. I think it's like joke's on me, right? I think he put everything in my path so that one thing would lead to another, would lead to another, and that I would have.
Calculated what he does.
I believe so. And I fought it for long enough that I was finally like, well, maybe I should just love myself and just do what I feel called to do. We're trying that out now. So I am going to speak at the 420 rally at the Capitol.
Okay.
The Peachtree Normal folks have opened up an opportunity for us to have that discussion specifically about hemp. Of course, there'll be other great speakers there covering all manner of all things cannabis that Georgians need to know about. But we'll be in, is it Liberty Plaza?
I think so.
Yeah, so Liberty Plaza, midday, the 20th of April. That's 420.
Yeah.
I'll be speaking again. Quite a few other people speaking, and we're gonna really have some talks about what we're doing in Georgia and why. And I know that we would love to have everybody show up. So whether you're a vendor and you want to come and contribute in that way, or you just want to come and hear the talks, or however someone might want to show up for that event, this crop needs support right now. And if anyone's ever believed in hemp or cannabis of any sort, that would be a great opportunity to come on out and make sure that our legislators know that we're out there, that we're informed, and that we would like to have a reasonable amount of time on the podium to really discuss what direction we take this.
And what time does it start?
I believe it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. I could be wrong. Could be closer to noon. But what I'll make sure to do is...
I have to find that out because I might just have to take off.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone to Capital City I'm a big advocate and activist for mental health, so I'm all too familiar with that Capitol.
Outstanding. And I didn't know, Jade, that we had the shared connection on the water, so that's fantastic.
Yes.
Outstanding.
Yes. I'm excited. But Chit Chat Chew, again, is going to do something with indie hemp, with that hemp.
Get more involved in that.
Yes. I love it.
Something positive.
Positive. Yes.
No BS over here.
Though I'm a lover of all cannabis, but I'm down with the hemp. The hemp draws me.
Me too.
The hemp draws me.
It makes me more interested now. No, I mean, especially being educated by you, like really like being more detailed about him. Yes, I definitely want to check more into it, and also find about those. You said
25,000
25,000 uses. 25,000.
Got
I would
strong.
It's like Austin Powers, like 100 million.
I would like to be on that journey. I'm so super curious about
I have to be fair that the 25,000 number is kind of old news, and most of what I'm seeing show up in the literature and the promotional materials for cannabis right now is actually making a claim of 50,000 plus uses.
Oh,
but
wow.
I'll be willing to expand my number once I've established the first 25,000. Seems like, I mean, I could like set out to like show everybody 25,000 different uses for hemp, but like 50,000, that's just too much. Let's get through the first 25,000 first. And then if there's another 25,000 to go, I don't know, I might pass the baton on to somebody else at that point. Be like, all right, I'm tapping out. Your turn.
So, in between your business, your advocating, your activism, I can't even get it. Activism. Excuse me, audience. Where's the personal time for your family?
That's a good question. That's actually a great question. So I'm a single working mom. I have an exquisite child who is she like blows my mind every day, and she gets, when she's not at school or at track or doing that, then she gets my undivided attention because she's the smallest person that I know that's completely dependent upon me to provide for her. So I get up early. I go to bed late. And it's I feel divinely guided. You know, I don't know if that's just from a sense of naivety. But I was explaining to Mark earlier today, what I found out over about the last 8 months is that on those days that I do something, anything, to further knowledge about hemp, I sleep. And on those days that I do not show up for hemp and I just go about my workaday life and get absorbed with the smallness of my own existence, I don't sleep. So it didn't take long for me to figure out that the best way to manage my earth suit and to be the best parent that I could be was to answer the call that I felt was being given to me. So it might not seem like I have enough time in the day to do all of it, but it's really it has yet to provide any difficulty for my ability to connect with my child. In fact, if anything, I mentioned the Snapchat business earlier, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm 40. I didn't grow up with Snapchat. I don't know anything about this. I was like, what is this stupid bunny filter? Like, what is going on? I remember one of my friends from Taekwondo was like, oh, you have to try it out. Get on this Snapchat business. And I tried it for like 12 seconds. And I was like, ugh, I don't get it. Get it away from me. I don't want any part of it. And it wasn't until a little while later, that like 2 years later, I think, or even a year later, that it came back on my radar, and it was through my daughter. And she was doing all this Snapchat business. And I was like, wait a minute, like, what about Facebook? She's like, oh, Mom, we're not interested in Facebook. And I was like, whoa, news to me. I was like, what about Instagram? She's like, miffy on that. And I was like, well, what is it? She's like, Snapchat, Mom. And then I ran across, I have some other friends that are really, really active in, you know, in the social media space and how social media promotions work and how to build a business and grow a business using social media. And they confirmed what my daughter told me from the beginning. She said, if you really want to change the world, you need to be talking to the kids, and the kids are on Snapchat. So not only have I started activating for, or, you know, doing activism for hemp, my 12-year-old daughter and I have become closer with one another because now, instead of just sending her a text or something that says, hey, Mommy's going to be there to pick you up at 5:15, I send her a snap in a bunny filter. And then I started doing all sorts of snaps for hemp. So I'll do that from time to time, run a challenge about We had a $100 prize 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, for whoever could properly guess the number of shots that you would have to take, and based upon the number of times I said hemp. So that's a past challenge. And Aviva won. And I would just like to point out that she won. She drank water because we leave space at Indie Hemp for everyone to show up with their own unique expression of them. I had a rough day, so I used Crown, but that was my personal choice. So anyway, after that challenge, I found out from my daughter, because my daughter did a black belt with me as well. We're very adventurous. We later, we then went on and got scuba certified. So we love to go scuba diving together. We do aerial silks together, the circus arts business together. And that makes for really interesting Instagram pages for both of us. So she comes home from school one day not too long ago, and she says, "Mom, you'll never guess what happened at the lunchroom today." She's like, "Caroline looked at me and asked me, 'What's hemp?'" And so my daughter says, "Well, I just started explaining it to her. It's this plant, and it's so cool, and you can do this, and you can do that." And she said, I stopped myself, and I looked at her and said, "Wait a minute, how do you know about hemp?" And Caroline, bless her soul, she said, "Well, I think you have the coolest mom on the planet, so I kind of stalk her on social media." And my first reaction was, I was proud. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I impressed a 12-year-old. And then I was like, "Wait a minute, that's not the right reaction. Hang on. What did I really do?" And I thought back to my youth, growing up in the 80s. Those were like really formative years for me. That was the whole war on drugs. Guys, I don't know how to break it to you, but the war on drugs is not working. Look into it. Don't take my word for it. Look into the statistics on it. It's not working.
It's not.
I love the reads.
It's just not working. We need a reframe on that one. Any time now. And what I realized was that I was raised to believe that everything about cannabis was bad. And why was it bad? Well, it was a drug, so it was going to get you high. And if you got high, then your brain would look like a fried egg in a frying pan. Right? Does anybody else remember the commercials from the 80s? I learned it by watching you, Dad. And I thought about how that program impacted me during my formative years and the way that it was so effective at brainwashing me to believe that everything about cannabis was bad. So I decided I was just going to use the same type of campaigning, only I was going to do it in a bunny filter, and I was going to tell them the truth. There's actually a plant out there. It's called hemp. It doesn't get you high. It's not a drug. Not only should you not stay away from it, you should buy as much of it as possible. By the way, did you know you can walk into the grocery store and you can purchase hemp? You can eat hemp. You can slather hemp all over your bodies. You could drink hemp. You could wear it. You could feed it to your pets. In Colorado, there's actually a pilot program where they're feeding cattle hemp now. So, you can use it as animal bedding. You can build sidewalks with it. You can build houses with it. There's hempcrete. You can make plastic out of it. You can do anything out of it. You can do all of that. Here in Georgia, you just aren't allowed to grow it. And then I started looking, and I was like, wait a minute, how much of an industry is this? I'm a capitalist. I'm not going to lie. I work for a profit. I run small businesses. Yeah. So I was like, so what's the metrics behind? What are the numbers? What's the economic value? And I about lost it when I saw the 2014 estimates that the United States imported $500 million worth of industrial hemp. 95% of that was coming from overseas imports. We are putting it on our shelves here, and I just can't figure it out because in Georgia, I've only been here for 9 years. But I'm going to tell you what, one thing I've learned about Georgia is we love our farms, we love our farmers, we love our farmers markets, we love all that stuff. So why are we bypassing Georgia farmers?
Right.
We're selling hemp. We are buying hemp. But we are not allowing our farmers to and 60% of all hemp that is cultivated worldwide is imported by the United States of America. Mm-hmm. Let's close the loop on this and help out our farmers.
Absolutely.
They have got it rough enough as it is. And you know what? Anytime that I can buy local, I want to buy local. And the more I learn about hemp, the more I want to buy hemp. Nothing in the world could possibly make me happier than to go to my local farmer's market and buy something, anything, hemp. because I know that farmer got a piece of a market that he didn't have to take away from anybody else. We would be taking it away from foreign imports.
Yeah.
And I have absolutely nothing against our brothers and sisters in China and our brothers and sisters up in Canada and the Great White North. But folks, if we're buying it in America and we're selling it in America, then I think we should grow it in America.
Absolutely.
I agree with
that. Drops mic.
Drop mic.
Drops mic. Nothing else to say. End of discussion.
Wow. Yes. I love it. I love it. Yes. And, I don't know if you've heard other shows before with us speaking, but, I'm a big, again, advocate. I'm diagnosed with what society has says a mental health diagnosis, and just from past experience being the lab rat, trying all of those medicines, and it has absolutely done no good. It's done more harm than good. And I'm so within, I know at least 10 years, if not a little bit longer than that, I've just been on this healthier, definitely mind, body, spirit, to just be better, because these meds, doctors, they just get paid. They don't care. They just, okay, let me write you a script. Go ahead, be about your way. See you in like 3 months.
Right.
A month, a month to 3 months.
3 months where we can categorize all the side effects that you're having.
And it's just, I don't know. I guess I've had this spiritual awakeness. I'm a spiritual person, though I do chant and meditate and things like that. And it's really, I've been really doing more of a mental detox.
Yeah.
And as learning about more of the hemp, I'm just like, and then, because we met on Facebook through, I don't know, the group probably, and you were doing probably a video or doing something, and I was like, oh, she is a 60s person and so free spirited, because I know I'm a 60s person. I have no shame in my game. I am
tell them.
Yes, I am just
shame.
No
Embrace
shame.
it.
And when I saw you, and I was like, oh, yes, even over Facebook, I am having like this connection. And then we just started back and forth, and the more I was reading about what you did, and I was like, oh yes, the third eye for me was opening, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to get more in tune with myself, and to hell with these damn meds, which I don't take them. I don't care. Sorry, y'all, I don't take them.
But that's your choice.
My choice. Okay. But just knowing that I'm cleansing myself with that has made me more aware, more knowledgeable, and getting more in tune with nature. I love nature anyway. And being a Pisces, I am just like, I really just am a nature person, love water. It's so peaceful. I could just probably stay out in the woods and just enjoy myself because I don't know. It's just
I guess just soaking in that.
Just soaking
that
in
energy. It's the
that
energy.
And going back to the ancestors and getting in touch more with myself than my Native American self, and just self in general. And it's like, wow, I like this, and I like who I am now, because
Get
I'm
away from the superficial
because I'm
world.
not
that person. I'm not that person anymore, and I love it, and it's all because I've been detoxing the mind and the body and getting the spirit right.
Yeah,
hemp came to me when I was exploring ancestor worship through Native American tribal affiliations. Yeah, yeah. It sure did.
And people are just so not knocking, because people can do whatever they want. That's your choice. Do you woo woo? You love it. You like it. I love it. But I'm around a lot of people who they're typical. I'll say that they're just typical. They're in that typical space, and they don't I'm a person who has always been the black sheep of the family, so to speak, and I've always been a thinker outside of the box, and it's like becoming older and becoming more aware. It's like when I hear these people, I'm like, I shake my head, because I know I can't I'm just like, oh, if you just only knew what you could do
What else?
with
It's
yourself.
more out there. Yeah, like,
Right,
come
there's
out
so
of
much
yourself.
more out there.
Stuck in that box. He's just so superficial.
And some people are scared. They're
artificial.
fearful
Yeah.
of
The unknown.
the unknown
Yeah.
or learning.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting, this whole hemp. The more I see you on Facebook speak about it, the videos and what you put on your timeline, even today, it's just, that's why I'm like, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to get down with it.
Get down with the
I felt
hemp.
that same way. I felt that
I
same
can
way.
make a track.
Okay, I'm just ready to get down with it.
So
yes.
I'm not surprised that hemp started showing up bigger for you in your life, given your choice to live in greater alignment. I don't mean to paraphrase for you, but this is what I heard from what you said, that you're choosing yourself and choosing to align with yourself and choosing to
Absolutely.
find those things
Yes.
that could naturally support you and being the best that you could be.
Absolutely.
So hemp is medicine.
It is.
It is.
So, well, we have that discussion out there. Remember the one that I said I wasn't going to touch upon because I'm not a doctor and I didn't
Right.
stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night? So what I'm not going to talk about, because I don't know enough about it to talk about it, there's lots of information out there, and if people are interested, I would really encourage them to go and look it up. But there's several different types of medicines that are THC and CBD based. And then there's another type of medicine that is nutritional, and that's called industrial hemp-based CBD. So this industrial hemp-based CBD actually functions to support our immune system by attaching to certain receptors on our cells. And so THC interacts with the human endocannabinoid system by attaching to certain receptors in our brain, so like CB1 receptors. And it attaches to that receptor in our brain and produces what we've already described as that euphoric feeling. And there have been several studies out there. I'm not going to quote them because I didn't read them all the way through, but about the uses for, THC for post-traumatic stress and helping people with schizophrenia as well, like a number of other, things that modern medicine, seizure disorders, like the things that cannabis is able to provide as a medicine for seizures in children, particularly.
Right.
I think it's cruel and unusual to not make that available to every
Right.
child
Yes.
or parent who struggles with that particular issue. Like, we know that it works.
It needs to be used more.
Just
in a large
let them
amount.
have it.
Yes.
Get that to them
Yes.
right now, really, please.
Right.
So then when we look at the non-THC version, which is the CBD that will come from industrial hemp, there's a multitude of other advantages to that as well. And we've seen, I was really impressed by a group called Growing Warriors, and they're out of Kentucky. And what they're doing is providing an opportunity for transitioning vets. Now, this isn't the only program that they run. They do other aspects of farming, but the way that I came across them and the way that they came across my radar was that they were hemp farming in Kentucky and working with transitioning veterans. So veterans that were coming back, heavy PTSD afflicted and deemed unsuitable for any sort of
yes.
anything, right? Like, we sent you to war and we broke you, and then we bring you home.
And we're just kicking you off to the
and we
curb.
we
There
broke
go.
you, and
Right.
now you're, now like
doing
fend
no
for
more
yourself.
for you.
Yes, fend for
Right.
yourself.
So there's this one guy and his family was impacted by exactly that, and they sent his brother home, and he's like, my brother's not broken. Like, don't give up on him, And he said, we're poor. We didn't have any way, if there isn't a way for us to support ourselves, they're in Kentucky, and he'll say it himself, like, if you live in Kentucky, you've lived off the land at some point or another. And so what they created was an opportunity for transitioning vets to come and be a part of this hemp farming experience, again, among other things that they were making available. And one of the things that was really interesting that I saw was that the Growing Warriors were selling a CBD vape pen. And within my family, my brother had come to visit, and he was having a struggle moment. And I remembered that I had this CBD vape pen from an event called HempX Asheville. And I was like, hey, I didn't have a chance to use this yet, but here, like, you're struggling, take this. And I give him this CBD vape pen, and I'm telling you, to this day, he's still like, hey, where'd you get that? I'm like, dude, it's not illegal. It's not like I have to go to like a dealer on the corner. And he's like, no, where'd you get it? I got to get more quick. And I'm like, okay, no, you can just actually buy that, So there's advantages also for the industrial hemp-based CBD as we sort through some of the other issues relative to other medicines that can be made out of cannabis. Again, since the CBD-based is proving to provide immediate relief to people in a number of different things. There's even some anti-cancer research out there that I'm not going to make that claim because I think it would be irresponsible for me to make that claim, and I'm not encouraging anyone to stop taking their medication.
Right.
What I'm saying is that the CBD oils and what they can do for our systems merits deeper investigation. It shows tremendous amounts of promise so far. Absolutely from a prevention standpoint and keeping our bodies healthy and whole by using it as a non-nutritive supplement or nutritive supplement that we're incorporating into, like it as a daily supplement, something like that. But some way to, if we have this endocannabinoid system in our bodies, it's indicative of some sort of a co-evolution, right, between mankind and hemp. Otherwise, why would we have this system in our body that reacts specifically to hemp? If somebody knows the answer to that out there, like, tell me, please, because that's the only one I can't find out. Like, why is it like this? I've been able to find research about it, about the endocannabinoid system, and I keep hearing these people saying, oh, well, they suppressed it because it was so great. They suppressed it. It was so great. What I found out about the endocannabinoid system is that we didn't really discover this as a species until like 15 years ago. So industrial hemp and all of its cousins and friends, whatever you want to call the rest of the cannabis genus of plants, they were shut down before we even knew about this endocannabinoid system. The fact that we know about it now is really, like, to me, it's the last of the justifications for why we should completely unchain this plant and really find out the full breadth and scope of what it can do. So what I envision would be able to happen is that we would enter into a period where let's fast forward to a place where HB 465, that's industrial hemp cultivation provisions for Georgia, where that's already passed, and we've got a couple of years, maybe 2 or ish years under our belt where Georgia's finest minds at our exemplary universities have been studying this plant, working with its genetics, understanding how it interacts and how the THC levels interact with the specific climate that we're dealing with here, figure out which strains of it are the best ones to grow here in Georgia, and really put that into the hands of our scientists and our universities so that we can open that up with some solid factual-based evidence here in Georgia that will allow for us to put the right genetics in the hands of our farmers so that they can grow. And then our farmers, at the point of use, are improving the environment right there where they live. They're improving the soil right there where they live. They're providing a multitude, as many as 25,000 different uses that each individual farmer could choose to use their hemp for. So that's what I would like to see happen. And the way that I think that we're going to get there is we're going to continue to expand the numbers and the amount of imports that we're doing on hemp. So buy as much hemp as you can. And we can continue to show the numbers for the justification for us to make this a U.S.-based industry. And if any of us out here cares, we're losing industry like crazy. High technology items are being shipped overseas to be manufactured there. So we can kind of take it back to the old school here in the U.S. and let's use our farmland to farm something that we're going to use right here in America that actually benefits our soil.
Okay. Cool. So it's getting near that time, but I want to give you the opportunity to let the listeners know how to find you.
Everybody can find me on Facebook. Sorry, I was just waving at the live folks that are watching us. Hi, guys. So Indie Hemp is really our one-stop shop for information. And that's INDIE space hemp, HEMP. Okay. So Indie Hemp is where, I'm running a blog on WordPress. I'm not entirely sure I understand that. So basically I just load it onto WordPress. But if you're on WordPress, it's Indie Hemp blog, WordPress.com. Most of those blog posts, if not all of them, I love my Facebook group. They were the ones that were there that supported me when I said, hey, I got this crazy idea. I want to stand up and talk about plants. And they were like, I don't know if you're qualified. I was like, yeah, but you love me, right? I'm like, so go with it. So I have a special love for everybody that's on Indie Hemp. I just love all of you so much.
Love, Indie Hemp.
All the love in the world.
We also have, if you're more interested or more inclined, so the Indie Hemp group is really about, like, I'm sharing my experience with everyone about starting my industrial hemp farm. And just like showcasing like, hey, here's what our clones look like. Hey, here's what our farm application looks like. Hey, here's the, we just ran a challenge this week and I asked the viewers at Indie Hemp to help me name my farm. And they did, and I was so proud of him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was really proud of him.
Awesome.
So we'll be doing a big announcement soon on what the farm name is, and of course giving great thanks to our friends who contributed to help us name it. And I'm just trying to get people aware of it. If they can be familiarized with the process and see me go through it, and you'll see, like, I'm going to mess up along the way. Like, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to, laugh at me, please. Laugh with me. I'll be laughing at myself, too. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I do feel divinely guided, and I feel like I'm doing something that feels good.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
yes.
That's not just for me, for my kid, for the planet, for everyone around us, for the water. Like, honestly, the impact it has on the water really touches me on a deep level, because I'm human, and I like water a lot. So they can find it at Indie Hemp on Facebook. We also have a group, I mentioned Aviva before, and this is her group, and I would ask anybody who's here in Georgia with any type of an activist heart, mind, or soul, come over and check out the Georgia Hemp Economic Revival Organization. So that's the Georgia Heroes. So that's, again, Georgia's Hemp Economic Revival Organization. That's also a Facebook group. Aviva does a great job of keeping us all informed of what's going on at the legislative level. Where does it stand? She's got a really, really good pulse with our legislators. In fact, she'd probably love to hear from you. She'll tell you who your legislator is, when the last time she spoke to them about this issue. Just a really, really super gal. If you haven't already had a chance to connect with her, highly recommended. Certainly the folks that are Peachtree Normal, they're also friends of industrial hemp. And then if you're more into like just kind of the pictures and stuff like that, you just want to see pictures of my farm, whatever hemp adventure I'm out on. We have Indie Hemp on Instagram. And then Snapchat. Okay. Snapchat's really where I show up and do the most, like, little snippets about hemp. Okay. And so if you guys want to follow me on Snapchat, you can add me. It's StarCapt Steph, so StarCaptSteph. And my latest one there is I purchased a hemp bra.
Oh, that sounds
I took it off after wearing it for a day, and I was like, I know why they made sailcloth and rope out of it now. The bra is not my favorite application for hemp, but hey, I'm willing to try it out. I'll try it out. Yeah. They say that.
Yeah, I might have to try it out.
They say that it gets, as with, like, most ladies, like, I was struggling with, like, breast lumps, and I read some article that said that there was something going on with hemp and wearing it as a bra, and I'm sure that if I could tolerate it for more than about 10 hours, maybe it would help. I don't know, but I'm going to try a couple of tricks. I know that Aviva shared a couple things with me that we can do with hemp fabrics to help render them a little softer. The fabrics are really... it's an industrial crop, so it has a very industrial feel to it once it's created. But yeah, so if you want to see me in a hemp bra, Snapchat's the place to go for that sort of thing.
Okay. So we appreciate you so much. Oh, I just love this. We're going to have to follow up. Well, we will anyway off of this show. But I hope everybody enjoyed that was listening to Captain Star, Steph, and Mark was here doing the Facebook Live. We appreciate you as well. Yes, and so we will definitely follow. Of course, I'm going to do it anyway, but for the show's sake, we're going to follow up with you again to see what's going on, because Chit Chat Chew definitely wants. I don't mean to speak for both of us.
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah.
You already know.
We're
on the same.
Yeah, we're gonna do something with indie hemp. That's all I know. I see it in the stars.
We're gonna make something happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, on that note, I found that it was very interesting. I know that you guys are really representing a voice that needs representing. And when I was on the phone with my farmer just last week, he starts going on and on and on about hemp, and I got the fast track, faster, funnier, here's 30 minutes of 30 years of hemp farming. And he starts going, he starts talking, and he says, hemp, it's a transgender crop. And I was like, what? I said, what? And he says, yeah, if it gets stressed, or, and that can be either too much heat, too little water, or whatever, Like, I'm not saying any of you back in the day bought dime bags that had like a whole bunch of seeds in them or anything, but if you did, one of the things that you would know about that plant is that it was grown under really, really, really adverse conditions. And that plant was transgender because it was forced to adapt to its environment. And when we have a plant that changes sex halfway through its life cycle in response to external stimuli that stress it out, it made me think that it's not the only transgender entity out there that gets oppressed. Is that fair for me to say?
Okay.
Okay then.
And I didn't know where the connection was at first. I just knew it was there. And I know that any of us, regardless of what sort of life we might be living, can feel misunderstood. We can feel left out. We can feel like we're the only ones. And I feel like, there'd be no greater voice for hemp than the LGBTQ community. And I want to thank you for letting me come here and talk to you and letting me reach out to your audience.
Absolutely.
No
and
problem.
letting me explore that connection that, I think that we can all help each other. And in particular, I feel like this crop is really calling out to this community to say, hey, maybe we could rise up together.
Absolutely.
All right
Yes,
then.
definitely,
All right
definitely,
then.
definitely.
All right.
So
we're
our
gonna close this show.
We're about to close it out. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna close the show out. We thank you guys for coming in the studio with us, and we're definitely gonna follow back up with you, Miss Steph.
Thank you.
And okay, listeners, so I hope you enjoyed the interview. Please tune in next week for our next show. It's gonna be great. And have a good night, y'all.
And peace, love, and hemp.
Cheer.
Thank you.